I never thought I'd be posting this on Reddit, but I need to get this off my chest. Some of you might recognize my situation if you live in Millfield. Not the real name obviously, but I've changed enough details to keep my identity hidden. For 15 years, I thought I had the perfect life in our little town of 5,000. I am the sheriff here, have been since I was 33. Got elected on a platform of hometown values and family first. The irony isn't lost on me now. Everyone knows everyone in Millfield. Or at least they think they do. My wife Sarah and I were high school sweethearts. Homecoming queen married the football captain. That whole cliché. We have 2 kids. Emma, S16 now, and Jake, S13. Sarah runs the local real estate agency, sits on the PTA, volunteers at church bake sales, and somehow still manages to host dinner parties where she serves her famous apple pie. From the outside, we were that picture-perfect family. Then there's Melissa Jenkins, middle school English teacher, beloved by students and parents alike. Her husband Richard works at the bank, coaches Little League, and plays the organ at First Baptist every Sunday. They don't have kids. Something people used to whisper about until they just accepted it as God's plan. Melissa leads the book club, organizes the annual charity drive, and brings her grandmother's chocolate cake to every potluck. What nobody knew, what nobody could have possibly suspected, was that for the past 10 years, Melissa and I have been meeting at the Pine Ridge Motel, 30 minutes outside town. Room 14, every Thursday afternoon. The kind of affair that becomes so routine it feels like a second marriage. It started after a school safety meeting. A casual touch, a lingering glance. The first time was impulsive, filled with guilt. But then it became our escape. From the expectations, from the performance of being the perfect sheriff, the perfect teacher, the perfect spouse. For 2 hours a week, we weren't Millfield's finest. We were just us. My wife never suspected. Not once. She was too busy crafting her own perfect life, making sure everyone knew just how blessed the Williams family was. When I came home late citing police business, she'd just roll her eyes and complain about dinner getting cold. When I missed Jake's baseball game because of paperwork, she'd lecture me about priorities while texting her friends about community gossip. Sarah could be difficult. The woman I married had gradually turned into someone obsessed with appearances. Nothing was ever good enough. Not our house, not my salary, not the kids' grades. Behind closed doors, she'd tear into me about lack of ambition, while spending money we didn't have on renovations nobody needed. But in public, all smiles and, my husband the sheriff, pride. I stayed for the kids. At least that's what I told myself. And I had Melissa. Those stolen moments where I felt appreciated, understood. Then came the Miller robbery. $500,000 in diamonds taken from their home while they were on vacation. Big news for a town like ours. As sheriff, I had to check everyone's alibis, review security footage from around town, interview potential witnesses. Including Melissa Jenkins, who'd been seen near the Miller place that week. Including myself, who couldn't exactly admit where I was last Thursday afternoon. The investigation brought our house of cards tumbling down. And that's when I discovered my perfect wife had secrets of her own. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how it all fell apart. The Miller robbery happened on a Friday night. Big house on the edge of town. Owners away on some European cruise. They came back to find their safe cracked open, family heirlooms and Mrs. Miller's diamond collection gone. In a town where people still leave doors unlocked, this felt like a violation of everything Millfield stood for. As sheriff, I had to take immediate action. Called in the deputies, set up a timeline, started gathering witness statements. By Monday morning, my office was buzzing with activity. Deputy Torres was reviewing traffic cam footage. Deputy Johnson was interviewing neighbors. And I was staring at a list of people who'd been seen near the Miller property that week. Melissa's name jumped out like a flashing red light. According to Mrs. Abernathy, town gossip extraordinaire, Melissa had been walking her dog near the Miller place on Thursday afternoon, right when she should have been with me at the Pine Ridge Motel. I felt that cold drop in my stomach. Something wasn't adding up. I called Melissa during her lunch break. Had to keep it professional, of course. Walls have ears in a station this small. Mrs. Jenkins, this is Sheriff Williams. I need to speak with you regarding the Miller investigation. Would you be available after school hours? Her voice was steady when she replied, but I could hear the tension. Of course, Sheriff. I can stop by around 4:30. When she walked into my office, she looked perfect as always. Navy blue dress, pearl earrings, that blonde hair pulled back in a tidy bun. Nothing like the woman who whisper breathless confessions against my skin in room 14. Close the door, I said, probably more harshly than intended. Someone saw you near the Miller house on Thursday, I said once we were alone. Want to explain that? Her eyes widened. Thursday? That's impossible. I was. She stopped herself. You were where, Melissa? I pressed. I was grading papers in my classroom until 5, then went straight home. The lie came so smoothly, I almost believed her. Can anyone verify that? The janitor might have seen me. Another lie. I leaned forward. We need to talk privately. Tonight, the usual place. She nodded slightly and left. When I got home that evening, Sarah was on the warpath. Apparently, Emma had gotten a B on her English paper, and somehow this was entirely my fault. If you were ever around to help her study instead of working all hours, maybe she wouldn't be falling behind. Sarah snapped, aggressively chopping vegetables for dinner. But no, Sheriff Williams is too busy protecting the town to care about his own family. I bit back a retort about her spending more time at client meetings than helping with homework, but I needed to get out of there without raising suspicion. Actually, I need to head back out. They got a lead on the Miller case. Sarah slammed down the knife. Of course you do. Just like last week when you missed dinner with the Johnsons. And the week before when you promised to fix the garage door. Her voice rose with each accusation. I am so tired of being married to your badge, David. What do you want from me, Sarah? You want the diamonds back or not? Because solving crimes takes time. I shouted back. Don't you dare raise your voice at me, she hissed. You not wearing your uniform now, big man. In this house, you just a disappointment. I grabbed my keys and left without another word, her voice still ringing in my ears as I slammed the door. When I arrived at the motel, Melissa was already waiting in room 14, pacing nervously. What's going on? She asked immediately. Why did Mrs. Abernathy say she saw me at the Millers when I was here with you? I shook my head. I don't know. But something's not right. We need to get our stories straight before this investigation goes any further. David, she said quietly, I need to tell you something. And that's when Melissa revealed the first bombshell, one that would ultimately expose a web of lies far beyond our affair. I wasn't with you last Thursday, she confessed. I canceled, remember? Said I had a doctor's appointment. My blood ran cold. She was right. For the first time in years, broken routine. But I hadn't been at the station like I told Sarah. So where the hell had we both been? And who knew enough about our affair to use it against us? I drove home from the motel in a daze, Melissa's revelation still ringing in my ears. If she hadn't been with me last Thursday, and I hadn't been at the station like I claimed, we were both screwed. Two people with false alibis connected to a major robbery. In cop terms, that's what we call looking guilty as hell. I parked a block from my house, needing a minute to think. Melissa had been evasive about where she actually was during our canceled rendezvous. Said she needed to handle something personal, but wouldn't elaborate. After 10 years of sharing our most intimate secrets, suddenly she had something she couldn't tell me. Red flags were popping up faster than I could count them. When I finally walked through my front door, the house was quiet. Too quiet. Sarah's car was in the driveway, but she wasn't in the kitchen or living room. I found her in our bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at her phone. "Where were you really?" she asked without looking up. My cop instincts kicked in. "Working the Miller case. I told you that." She finally raised her eyes to meet mine, and I was shocked to see they were rimmed red. Sarah never cried. Ever. Not when her father died, not when Jake broke his arm in 2 places. She considered emotions a weakness. "Cut the bullshit, David. Torres called looking for you. Said you left the station hours ago." Her voice was unnervingly calm. So I ask again. "Where were you?" My mind raced through possible excuses, but before I could answer, Sarah held up her hand. "Actually, don't bother. I don't even care anymore." She stood up, smoothing her skirt with practiced precision. "I've known about your Thursday afternoons for years." The floor seemed to drop out from under me. "What are you talking about?" "You and Melissa Jenkins. Room 14. Pine Ridge Motel." She delivered each detail like she was reading a grocery list. "Does that about cover it?" I felt the blood drain from my face. "Sarah, save it," she snapped. "You think I am stupid? You think I haven't noticed how you look at her at community events? How you both disappear at the same times?" She laughed, a brittle sound. "This town might be blind, but I am not. Why didn't you say anything?" I asked, genuinely confused. This wasn't the reaction I expected. Sarah's perfect mask slipped, just for a second, revealing something cold underneath. "Because it was convenient, David. Your little affair gave me freedom to pursue my own interests." That's when the second bombshell dropped. "Richard Jenkins and I have been sleeping together for 8 years, she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Thursdays work well for us too. Funny coincidence, isn't it?" I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Richard, Melissa's husband, the church organist, the Little League coach, and my wife, for 8 years. "You lying," I managed to say. Sarah walked to her dresser, pulled out her phone, and showed me a text conversation with Richard. The messages were explicit, referencing specific times and places, including last Thursday, when I was supposed to be with Melissa but wasn't, and she was supposed to be with me but wasn't, "Does Melissa know?" I asked, suddenly understanding her evasiveness earlier. "Of course not. Richard and I are discreet, unlike you 2 amateurs." She put her phone away. "But that's not even the interesting part, Sheriff." The way she said my title sent chills down my spine. "Richard and I were together last Thursday when the Millers were robbed. All afternoon and evening. Which means neither of us has an alibi that doesn't expose everything." Her eyes narrowed. "And neither do you and Melissa, I am guessing." I sat heavily on the bed, mind racing. 4 people, all connected to the case, all lying about where they were. It was a prosecutor's dream scenario. But here's where things get complicated. Sarah continued, sitting beside me with uncomfortable closeness. "Richard got a text that night. Someone knows about us. Someone who's been watching all of us." "Blackmail?" I asked, cop instincts kicking back in. "Not yet. Just a warning that we should check the Miller house." When Richard drove by the next morning, he saw the front door was open. She turned to face me fully. "Someone wanted us to find it. Why are you telling me this now?" Sarah's expression hardened. "Because they stole something from me too, David. Something that was hidden in the Miller's safe. Something that could destroy all of us if it gets out." And just like that, I realized this wasn't just about uncovering an affair anymore. This was about saving our lives as we knew them. Because whatever was in that safe connected all 4 of us in ways I was just beginning to understand. "What was in the safe, Sarah?" I asked, already dreading the answer. Her next words changed everything. "Evidence," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Evidence of what we did 5 years ago. 5 years ago." The words hit me like a physical blow. I hadn't thought about that night in years. Had forced myself to lock it away in the darkest corner of my mind. That's impossible, I said. We agreed never to speak of it again. All four of us. Sarah's laugh was hollow. And yet someone put those photos and the USB drive in Jeffrey Miller's safe. Someone who knew he'd be out of town this week. My head was spinning. 5 years ago, there had been another crime in Millfield. The kind that changes a town forever. 17-year-old Caitlin Ross had disappeared after the homecoming dance. Search parties combed the woods for days. Her face was plastered on every telephone pole, convenience store, and church bulletin board in the county. As sheriff, I led the investigation, working endless hours, promising her parents I wouldn't rest until she was found. 2 weeks later, her body was discovered in Blackwater Creek, just outside town limits. The medical examiner ruled it an accidental drowning, likely alcohol-related. Case closed. Town mourned. Life moved on. Except it wasn't an accident. And the four of us knew it. That night had started as two separate affairs. Me with Melissa. Sarah with Richard. Both happening at opposite ends of the old hunting cabin by the creek. None of us knew about the other couple until we heard voices. Instead of the awkward confrontation you might expect, the four of us ended up drinking together, laughing about the cosmic joke of it all. Caitlin Ross showed up around midnight, drunk and belligerent, having followed Richard's car. She'd been having her own affair with him. It turned out, only she was underage and threatening to tell everyone if he broke it off. The argument escalated. Caitlin threatened to expose not just Richard but all of us. Sarah pushed her. Caitlin fell, hitting her head on the stone fireplace. She didn't get up. What happened next was a blur of panic and calculated decisions. 4 respected community members standing over the body of a teenage girl. Each with too much to lose. Each willing to help cover it up. I used my position as sheriff to steer the investigation. Melissa created the story about Caitlin drinking alone by the creek. Richard planted evidence supporting our version of events. And Sarah took pictures. Insurance, she called it. To make sure none of us ever talked. Where were the photos kept? I asked, pulling myself back to the present. In a waterproof container, buried under the old oak behind the Miller property. I checked regularly to make sure it was still there. Sarah's perfect composure was cracking. 2 months ago, it was gone. I assumed Richard had moved it without telling me. But he didn't. No. Someone else found it. Someone who knew where to look. She stood up and began pacing. And now Jeffrey Miller's safe has been emptied. And all those photos and the USB with the video are potentially out there. Video? What video? This was news to me. Sarah shot me a look of disgust. Richard recorded that night on his phone. For the same reason I took pictures. Protection. I felt sick, not just at the memory of what we'd done, but at how calculating my wife had been even in that moment of crisis. Had I ever really known her at all? So what now? I asked. If someone has that evidence. Now we find out who's pulling the strings, Sarah interrupted. Because this wasn't a random robbery. This was targeted. The Millers' jewelry was just cover for what they really wanted. My phone buzzed with a text message. Unknown number. Meet at the cabin. Midnight. Come alone. Bring the evidence you kept for yourself, Sheriff. I showed Sarah the screen. Her face went pale. What evidence? I didn't keep anything. They don't know that, she said, suddenly businesslike. This is good. It means they don't have everything. We can still maneuver. Sarah, someone knows we killed a teenager. 4 pillars of the community involved in manslaughter and a cover-up. There's no maneuvering out of that. Her eyes flashed. It was an accident, and I am not going to prison because that little slut couldn't handle rejection. We built something in this town, David. A reputation. Respect. I am not losing that because of one mistake. In that moment, I truly saw my wife for the first time. The calculating ambition, the complete lack of remorse, the willingness to do whatever it took to maintain her perfect image. It was chilling. I need to warn Melissa, I said, reaching for my phone. Sarah grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. No, not yet. We need to know what we're dealing with first. Her grip tightened. Go to the cabin. See who shows up. But remember, whatever you hear, whatever they say, we stick together on this. All four of us, just like before. But as I left the house and drove toward the old cabin where everything had started 5 years ago, I wondered if there was any we left to save. And more importantly, if any of us deserved saving at all. The car crawled along the gravel road to the cabin, headlights carving a path through the darkness, illuminating pines on either side. I killed the lights half a mile from my destination and drove by memory, listening for any sounds that didn't belong in these woods. The midnight air felt charged, dangerous. I parked behind a cluster of thick bushes and walked the rest of the way, hand resting on my sidearm. 5 years of guilt and lies had led me back here, to where it all started. The old hunting cabin loomed ahead, a single light glowing in the window. No other cars were visible, but that didn't mean I was alone. Inside, the cabin smelled of dust and forgotten secrets. I swept my flashlight across the room, noting the stone fireplace where Caitlin had hit her head. Someone had set up a small table in the center with a single chair facing the door. On the table sat a laptop, open and glowing. When I approached, the screen flickered to life. A video began playing. That night, 5 years ago. The four of us panicking around Caitlin's body. My voice, authoritative even then. We have to make this look like an accident. Sarah photographing the scene, for insurance. Melissa weeping in the corner. Richard suggesting we move the body to the creek. I slammed the laptop shut, heart hammering in my chest. Difficult to watch. Isn't it, Sheriff? The voice came from behind me. I spun around, drawing my gun in one fluid motion. Emma stood in the doorway. My daughter, 16 years old. Caitlin Ross's best friend. Emma, what are you doing here? How did you find out? She stepped into the light, looking more like her mother than I'd ever noticed before. Cold, calculating. Caitlin kept a diary. She told me about her relationship with Mr. Jenkins. I never believed she would just get drunk and drown herself. You should go home, Emma. This isn't safe? For who? She took another step forward. They spent 2 years piecing this together. Following Mom when she checked on her secret hiding place. Hacking into Mr. Jenkins' cloud storage where he stupidly saved his insurance policy. Installing the camera in this cabin 6 months ago. My gun hand trembled. You robbed the Millers? She laughed, a sound so much like Sarah's it chilled me. No, that was Jake. Jake? He's 13. He's also angry. And smart. Did you know he can crack almost any safe? A skill he picked up while you were busy having your Thursday afternoons and Mom was with Mr. Jenkins. Emma's voice hardened. We make quite a team. I lowered my gun slowly, unable to process what I was hearing. My children, my own children had orchestrated this. Why? I managed to ask. Why not just come to me and say what? Hey Dad, did you help cover up my friend's murder? Would you have told me the truth? Her eyes, so young yet so old, bore into mine. No, you would have lied, like they've been lying for years. We never meant for Caitlin to die. It was an accident. Even to my own ears, the excuse sounded hollow. But the cover-up wasn't. Emma crossed her arms. 4 adults who were supposed to protect her. The sheriff, a teacher, the coach, and the town's leading realtor. All decided their reputations mattered more than justice. What do you want? I asked, dreading the answer. Originally, justice for Caitlin. Public exposure. Emma sighed, suddenly looking her age again. But Jake and I realized something as we collected all the evidence. This would destroy our family. Not just you and Mom, too. We, the murderers, kids, forever. She placed a USB drive on the table next to the laptop. So we're giving you a choice. Option 1. We release everything. The photos, the video, the diary entries. Everyone knows what the four of you did. Option 2. You confess. Just you, the noble sheriff who couldn't live with his conscience any longer. Found new evidence in the Ross case that was mishandled. You want me to take the fall alone? I was stunned. Mom calculated. Mr. Jenkins is weak. Mrs. Jenkins is a follower. But you, Dad, you, the only one who still has nightmares about Caitlin. The only one who visits her grave on the anniversary. Emma's voice softened slightly. You, the only one who might actually deserve a chance at redemption. I sat heavily in the chair, the weight of 5 years crashing down on me. And if I choose option 1? If I refuse? Then by morning, everyone in Millfield will know exactly who their town leaders really are. She placed a burner phone next to the USB drive. You have until dawn to decide. Call the number programmed in this phone when you, made your choice. She turned to leave, then paused at the door. For what it's worth, Jake and I always thought you were the best of them. That's why we giving you this chance. After she left, I sat alone in that cabin for a long time, staring at the stone fireplace where a young girl's life had ended and our web of lies had begun. I thought about my children. How they uncovered our darkest secret. How they created this elaborate scheme not just for justice but for something like mercy too. They grown up while I wasn't looking, shaped by the shadow of my choices. At dawn, I picked up the phone and dialed the number. 3 days later, I stood before a judge, confessing to evidence tampering and interfering with a death investigation. I resigned as sheriff and agreed to cooperate fully with the new investigation into Caitlin Ross's death. My testimony was carefully worded, taking responsibility for my actions while leaving just enough room for reasonable doubt about the others' involvement. Sarah filed for divorce the day after my arrest. Melissa and Richard Jenkins left town within a week. As they led me away in handcuffs, I caught sight of Emma and Jake in the back of the courtroom. They weren't smiling, but there was something like respect in their eyes. They had forced the truth into the light, not completely, but enough to honor their friend's memory without destroying themselves in the process. Sometimes justice and mercy look different than we expect. Sometimes redemption comes from the most unexpected sources. And sometimes, the people who truly see us for who we are, flaws and all, are the only ones who can offer us a way back from our darkest moments. After 5 years of living a lie in Millfield, I was finally going to pay for my sins. Not all of them, but enough that maybe, someday, I could look my children in the eye again without shame. That was worth more than any false perfect life we built. If you enjoyed this story and want to find out what happens next, please smash that like button and hit subscribe. Don't forget to ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Drop your theories in the comments below. Who do you think was behind the Miller robbery? Was it Sarah getting revenge? Melissa covering her tracks? Or someone we haven't even considered yet? This channel is only possible because of amazing viewers like you. Every like, comment, and share helps this channel grow, and I can tell you how much I appreciate your support.